In today's video, we're going to be talking about one of the most critical parts of the pre-production process. Welcome back, everyone, and once again, we are here for another episode of Producing the High School Play. This is part of Theater 5113, and we're going to be looking once again at our text of the director's vision, and hey kids, let's put on a show. We'll start with the Director's Vision, Chapter 10, where we talk about the prompt book. The prompt book is the complete record of everything that the director has in their vision. It is the Bible of the production. It needs to be completed before auditions because the more planning you have done ahead of time, the more efficient your rehearsal is going to be. The responsibility for maintaining this usually goes to your assistant director or to your stage manager so that the director can concentrate on just working with the performers. Things that need to be inside your production book include the script, direction for the actors, technical information, the playwright info, information on the play, the ground plan for your set, the production values like props, costuming, lighting effects, and so on, audition information, your cast list and contacts, character and scene breakdown, rehearsal schedule, all of your business dealings, contracts, and so forth, your daily journal of what you have learned at each rehearsal, and your goals for the next rehearsal. Once you have your production book in place, you can move on to one of the most important parts of the process, and that is auditions. Your pre-audition checklist needs to include things like advertising the auditions in the first place, ordering your scripts, having information packets for your auditionees, sides of the different things that they're going to be reading over the course of the audition. You need to reserve your audition space, have your assistants ready in order to help run the registration, and be ready to take notes on all of the performers you're going to see. Some of the things that are priority in considering during auditions is that you need to evaluate the performances accurately and make the best decisions that you can. You need to help your performers audition well and help bring out really good efforts from them. And you need to be fair, be impartial. Everyone has equal opportunity at the audition, and you need to be seen as impartial over the course of the audition. At this point, the text gives a whole lot of information on guidelines on being fair and impartial, but it all just boils down to the concept of being polite and respectful to your actors. If you fall behind as far as time goes, deal with it. Every actor gets equal time. There are different types of auditions that you can hold, and the type of audition you're going to hold is going to depend on the people that you're working with, what type of show you're doing, and just what is available to you at the time. A lot of theaters will do general open auditions where all of the interested performers meet in one space. You can watch each other perform. This is good because you can switch actors in and out as needed. There's also a general closed audition where all interested performers show up, but you only see one performer or one small group of performers at a time. They don't get to watch each other audition. There is the appointment method where you have your performers sign up for a specific time to come and audition for you. There's also the interview method where it's just a meeting between director or production staff and the actor. In seasonal auditions, this is where you have an entire block of shows that are ready to go, and you have your people come in and audition for all the shows at the same time, so you are casting multiple shows at once. So a person may be the lead in one show and ensemble in another show. There are auditions with prepared pieces where the actor chooses any type of monologue that they would like to perform, and they bring that to you in order to audition. Then there's also reading from the script where the actor reads a piece from the show that they are auditioning for. And a lot of times when they are doing this, they are trying to interpret the character without prior preparation. Next is going to be an improv audition, and this is what it sounds like. You're going to come in and you are just going to experiment with character and scene just to see how this person moves on stage and how they come up with character on the spot. And then finally, you have a callback audition. This is where you have had auditions previously, and you're going to have the top contenders for each role come and return for another set of auditions for that specific role. Now, when you're assessing the performer's ability over the course of the audition, this means that the director can work with the performer to uncover abilities that you may not see in the beginning of the audition. If a performer is nervous, if they are overperforming, if they are underperforming, if they're too quiet, if they're too loud, if they can't take direction, you need to be able to direct them on how to try it again a different way and make them feel more at ease in what they are doing. Make sure to give them praise for any changes in their performance in which they've taken your direction, and figure out which actors are going to work well together as part of a team. As a director, you need to be able to take a lot of notes over the course of the audition so that you can remember the actor's voice, their physical qualities, their direct ability, are they available, and the potential roles that they could fill in the show. Chapter 12 takes a look at casting the show from the auditions. Casting is going to determine the quality of the show. You have to put together the best possible performer in each role and get them to all work together as an ensemble and ensure that they are all growing as performers. This means that beforehand you need to have done an in-depth character analysis. You need to know, how do you want your audience to connect or respond to this character? You need to know the emotional qualities needed for this role, the vocal demands. Do they have to sing? Do they need to have an accent? And then look at their physical qualities. Do they look like the character? Can they meet the physical needs of the character? Do they need to dance? And so on. Then you need to analyze each person as a performer. Are they able to work well with others? Are they cooperative? If they have a star attitude, are you willing to overlook that because they are the best fit for this role? Is this an actor who is constantly typecast? Are they just playing the same role over and over in every single show? Is there a way that you can help them break out of that? Has this performer never performed this type of role before, but they've been working and working consistently in the theater and they've earned the role? Is this role an appropriate challenge for that performer? And finally, is this actor even available for the entire rehearsal process? When you're casting, there are some other things that you can consider, such as open casting. This is where you cast against what the script or audience expects in terms of gender, race, age. Sometimes this can be very complex and you need to make sure that you know what you're getting into if this is something that could potentially be seen as controversial. But it may give you some opportunities to put people into roles that they may never have a chance to play again, and it's something that could help them stretch and grow. Next up, you have pre-casting. This is where you cast your lead roles and then open up all of the other roles to open auditions. This can be tricky as well if you're not upfront about it. I'll tell a story about that later. You can cast understudies. This is where you have a backup for your lead roles. Sometimes they will not perform in the show unless they are filling in that role, or they may have an ensemble role and they'll fill in as needed. Next up is double casting. You may come up with 2 complete casts for the same show and rehearse them back to back. They will switch performances over and over. Now, this is something that is really good if you have, perhaps in an educational setting, a lot of kids who are auditioning for the same show and you really can't make decisions as to who to cut. Sometimes you may double cast the show and give everyone an opportunity to perform. And then finally, you could put together a tentative cast. This is where you put out the cast list, but it's with the stipulation that you will make a final decision on the cast within a certain number of days. This is not always an easy process, and there is the opportunity for some hurt feelings, so be very careful if you choose to go this route. Then you have chapter 13. Once you have your show cast, we're going to plan the rehearsal schedule. This is all about strategy. How often do you need to rehearse? How long? When do they need to be off book? When are you adding tech? The main goal is to use rehearsal time to unify all the elements into something that reflects the director's vision. You need to consider the scale of the production. How much time do you have until opening night? How complex is the script? Who's in your cast? Do you have younger kids? Do you have older kids? Or do you have working adults? There are a lot of things that you need to think through. One of the biggest being, how long does your rehearsal period need to be? The rule of thumb is going to be 1 hour of rehearsal per minute of runtime on stage. So a 45-minute play will need 45 hours of rehearsal. Usually if you're doing a musical, it needs to be 2 hours of rehearsal per 1 minute of runtime, and that is because you are trying to incorporate music and choreography as well. Next up, how frequently do you need to rehearse? Now, in theory, there are 11 opportunities to rehearse over the course of a week. 7 evenings, 2 weekend mornings, 2 weekend afternoons. Now, your typical schedule is going to be 5 or 6 rehearsals per week. I don't think anyone is going to go for all 11 rehearsal times. Then look at your duration of rehearsals. A typical rehearsal has about 45 minutes of you not even rehearsing, doing announcements, talking over your goals, doing your warm-ups, trying to share information. If you're working with younger kids, then you have to take more time for breaks. So aim for a minimum of 90 minutes of rehearsal. That gives you 45 minutes of the other stuff and 45 minutes of actual rehearsing. Your typical rehearsal period is going to be between 4 and 6 hours, though for students, keeping it closer to 4 hours is preferable just because they do have other obligations. The book also goes over the structure of the schedule starting about 6 weeks from your opening, where you establish your meaning and your goals, where you set the habits and expectations for your rehearsals. 4 weeks before, blocking and characterization. 3 weeks before, look at memorization, characterization, and the tempo of the show. 2 weeks before open, you're putting it all together, adding in your technical things, and your final week before show, polish and building the confidence of the cast, letting them know that they have a great product here and that this performance is going to shine. Next up, let's take a look at Hey Kids, Let's Put on a Show, Chapter 3, Holding Auditions. First of all, I'm noticing a discrepancy in the percentage attributed to casting's importance to directing between the two texts. The first text said around 90%, this text says 80%, so I'm going to need these authors to show their work. Chapter 3 starts with musical auditions and suggests that you start with full group dance auditions. Now, this gives them a chance to get loosened up and give everybody a chance to kind of get to know each other. After they work with a full group, break them down into smaller groups and have them audition again. Then you can do the individual music auditions. Now, you can either have them audition musically in front of their peers, which can help them work through stage fright, but it can lead to some hurt feelings if they don't get as many cheers as, say, somebody else does. So you can also have the option of taking them aside and having them audition individually away from everyone else. You can use the time after this for cold readings from the script, or you can save that until callbacks based off of your dance and music auditions. Now, you can keep your actors in a group to cycle them in and out. Everyone needs to read at least once. If you're doing a non-musical audition, then you can also start with your cold readings, or you could start with improv games just to get everyone loosened up and help everyone get to know each other. Audition forms need to list their prior experience and their possible conflicts with the rehearsal schedule. And also, they need to list what roles that they are interested in. So a lot of times this can kind of help you a little bit later if a parent is complaining about the role that their child got. Once you can show it was a role that they were interested in, then a lot of times that can help you out as a director. The chapter also reminds you that you need to be transparent. If you are casting older kids in leads, then people need to know that right off the bat. You need to allow your students to meet challenges. Maybe a quieter student needs to take on a lead role to break them out of their shell. Maybe someone who always has the lead needs to be in the ensemble so they can learn to work as part of a group. Also, if a student just does not have the availability that you need, or they are on the fence as far as their academic standing goes, you need to be upfront with them that they may not be cast or may be cast in a smaller role that will take a little less of their time. When you're selecting a show, you should probably have a cast in mind that you could work with, but always be open to any and all possible casting. Someone may show up that you never even thought of before. Once the cast list goes out, make sure to show as much empathy as possible. You need to be prepared to deal with hurt feelings. And if someone doesn't get a role and they are still desperate to participate, maybe you can help them find a backstage role so that they can still be involved and then maybe work their way up to a role in the future. And finally, let's just talk a little bit about some of my own personal thoughts and experiences with the auditioning and casting process. Now, auditions are just stressful for everyone involved. The director doesn't know what they're going to get. The actors don't always know what the director is looking for, and they're really putting themselves out there. Honestly, there is ego involved on all sides. So it can be a stressful situation. So as the director, it's your job to kind of help make things a little bit easier on everyone. Ultimately, as the director, you are in charge, but it's important to be respectful of the actors and their time. You need to be sure that this is someone that you as a director can work with right off the bat. As I mentioned before, transparency makes a huge difference when you are going through the audition and casting process. I worked with a show recently that cast a lead role but did not tell anyone at auditions, and they still had people showing up to audition for those lead roles. And then when the cast list came out and it was listed as people who weren't even at the audition, to say that there were some irritated actors is an understatement. So it's very important that you let your actors know what is going on as far as your casting decisions go. When you're casting, you need to focus on who can carry the show, even if they are not in a lead role. Sometimes having a very strong ensemble behind your lead role can change everything. I have been in shows where ensemble members had more stage time than the actual leads. So having an ensemble that you can count on, or someone maybe in a supporting role, can make a huge difference in a show. Casting a show is kind of an art form, and it's not something that you're going to get right 100% of the time. You'll learn what works and what doesn't. Sometimes you take a chance on someone and it just doesn't quite pan out, and that's okay. You work with what you have and make notes for changing things when you are doing things in the future. As a director, you need to accept that you are not going to make everyone happy with the cast list. You need to do what's best for the show and what is best for your actors and their overall experience. What are they going to gain from this? Once you have your show cast, you need to make sure that you are dedicating your time to making the rehearsal process as efficient and meaningful as possible. This is not just a social opportunity, although don't get me wrong, social is still going to happen, but this is not just a chance for everybody to get together and hang out. You are there to work on the show and unify the vision. So an effective director can actually make all of the working and learning happen, sometimes without the cast even realizing that that's what's going on. Again, this is something that comes with a lot of experience. I have seen some directors that can do this flawlessly and some that still have a little bit to learn. And as a director, you got to accept the fact that you will always be learning. There is always something that you could do a little bit different. So there you go, our episode on the casting and audition process. So I hope you found this helpful. Again, if you would like to check out the texts, they are going to be listed in the description below if you'd like to see them for yourself. Make sure that you stay tuned for the next episode, and I will see you next time. And scene.